What is it about expansion that gets me so damn excited? The thought of the National Hockey League expanding to another market is so thrilling. And we're going to cover that and a whole lot more on this episode of the Hockey Talk Show. Welcome, everybody. It's another night of Hockey Talk on this Tuesday, December 2nd. Thanks for hopping in on the Facebook and YouTube Live. Make sure you guys are subscribed and you're getting the notifications down below on Facebook and YouTube. You, of course, can follow us on Twitter as well, at Hockey Talk Show. We got a lot to talk about. The National Hockey League going into Seattle. We are one step closer to that. I'll tell you what happened, why the episode is titled NHL Expanding to Nashville. There are definite reasons as to why that is going to happen, or why we're going to discuss the possibility of that happening on the Hockey Talk Show today. Is a general manager on the move? If you follow the Hockey Talk Show closely, we named this episode originally when we first scheduled it, another GM on the move. We talked about Lou Lamoriello and the fact that he doesn't have a contract. There's another big GM who doesn't have a contract and still doesn't have a contract from the time that we talked about Lou Lamoriello not having a contract. And the fact that he doesn't have a contract is insane. It's utterly insane. The NHL 100 Classic, the celebration, the culmination of 100 years of National Hockey League, is going to be up at the big classic there, Ottawa and Montreal, on December 16th. That is just 11 days away. They have started building the rink. We'll check in with them. Evgeny Kuznetsov gives us one of the more funny moments of the National Hockey League this season. We'll look into that. And the boss has come to Broadway. Yeah, I'm talking about Bruce Springsteen, and I'm not talking about his Broadway show. Talking about with the New York Rangers. We'll get into all of that and more on this episode of the Hockey Talk Show. Comments below. Let me know. Where do you think the NHL should expand next? Seattle? Houston? Quebec City? Ottawa? Should we finally put a team in Ottawa? Sorry, that was hurtful. Senators fans, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. That's uncalled for. My apologies. But the question remains the same. Let me know in the comments below. Where do you think the NHL should expand next? Seattle, Houston, Quebec City. I guess we have to keep Kansas City on this list somewhat. They do have an NHL-ready arena. They did try and lure the New York Islanders there. The Islanders did play a preseason hockey game there. I forget who they played, but they definitely did go down there and play the game. Anyway, we're going to talk about all this and more on this episode of the Hockey Talk Show. Let's start off with the funny here before we get into too much of the serious topics. And let's go with Evgeny Kuznetsov in a hilarious moment in the game last night. Bring this up on the screen for those of you who are watching at home on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for doing that. This was a great moment where Evgeny Kuznetsov was looking for the fist bump. Give me a little fist bump love right there. Brett Connolly scoring the goal after a review. They were sitting, waiting. Is it going to count? Is it going to count? It counts. They get to the bench. Let me get a fist bump, bro. Nothing from Brett Connolly. Not giving up any fist pump love whatsoever. Totally left him hanging to dry. Which leaves an important lesson to be discussed here, and that is this. If nobody's there to give you a fist pump yourself. If nobody's there to give you credit for what you're doing, pat yourself on the back. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. These two had a little bit of a Twitter exchange as well, which I thought was quite hilarious. Here is their exchange together. There it is right there. Caps with the pro tip to anyone that's ever been left hanging. Brett Connolly, next time. Couple of fist pump emojis and a tagging of Kuznetsov right there. So all good in the capital of the United States of America as far as the teammates go. But there was a missed opportunity as far as that fist pump goes. Very, very sad to see that. You want to talk about the NHL Classic? Let's do that. There we go. NHL.com putting up some video. We got some footage of them building the rink in Ottawa. Super excited for this. There's a couple things I just get automatically excited for league-wide. Like, besides my own affiliations and love for the games, I get excited for relocation and I get excited for outdoor games. Like, no matter what it is, relocation and outdoor games are terribly exciting. 631-438-1768 on the Hockey Talk Show. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Outdoor games, we're going to be up in Ottawa in 11 days. The NHL 100 Classic, Canadiens and Sens, December 16th, 7 p.m. It'll be on the NBC Sports Network in the States, Sportsnet in Canada. Yesterday, they began construction on the rink in Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. 53-foot trailer, which houses the ice plant used to make the ice for the outdoor game, was parked behind the football stadium, home of the Ottawa Red Blacks of the Canadian Football League. Workers were putting down 52,000 square feet of plywood to cover the field for the 22nd game in the NHL's outdoor history. How about that? 22 games now since that first Winter Classic on January 1st, 2008. The ice crew, Derek King, senior NHL manager of facility operations, is working on his 11th outdoor game. It'll take him and a crew of 200 workers, including 16 ice makers, about a week to prepare the stadium. He said to NHL.com, to be here in Ottawa is pretty exciting. There's definitely a routine. The truck got parked yesterday. The crew arrived this morning. We'll start doing our piping run from the truck down to the field later today. For the first 4 days, we're going to just start focusing on our pipe run. We'll start hooking up the pipes from the truck down to the field by Wednesday. Thursday, you'll see the boards going up. And then right after that, we'll start making the ice for about 7 days. So pretty exciting as we head into the NHL 100 Classic over there in Ottawa. We'll follow the process of them building the rink. You can see there the truck, Derek outside answering some questions. We'll follow the progress on the Hockey Talk Show this week. We'll check in with it every now and then when we can. Moving right along, I do want to talk about an NHL general manager who should have a contract extension already done and doesn't. Is it your favorite team's NHL GM? You'll have to stay tuned to see. Or keep listening if you're on that podcast. Keep listening to see. Or just hit that little fast forward button. You could probably get there pretty quickly. But let's talk about NHL expansion or relocation. Most likely expansion, I think. I think it'll most likely be expansion. And where's the National Hockey League going to expand next? As you can see from the title of this episode, right there. Key Arena in Seattle. Once home to the Seattle Supersonics, now just a big fat emptiness, much like my soul. And they are trying to refill it. My soul. And they're trying to lure an NHL expansion franchise in there. Now, we bring this up today. It's pretty much breaking news because the city of Seattle did vote yesterday and approved a $600 million renovation for Key Arena. The Seattle Times Jeff Baker reports there's no guarantee it happens yet, but per The Athletic, this is a major step towards NHL expansion to the Pacific Northwest. The team could come from an existing franchise, of course, or Seattle could be the 32nd franchise overall. Reportedly, the Calgary Flames are looking into expansion, relocation, and the Arizona Coyotes. But of course, we know Gary Bettman does not want any team to be moving, and I don't believe that they will be. An announcement for the future of hockey in Seattle is expected in July of 2018. The Seattle City Council voted 7-1 on Monday to approve the new memorandum of understanding with the Oakview Group of Seattle to renovate Key Arena. You guys get double audio? I apologize for that. I'll see if I can get down to the bottom of why that's happening. We got a bad connection in here? I can't see why that's happening. You know what? Try killing the show and coming back to it in a second. Maybe that'll help. We look all pretty good on my end here. I don't know. All looks pretty okay on this end here. If you're just joining the Hockey Talk Show, we're talking about expansion to Seattle. That is the main topic on the list for the show today. I'm going to check the stream right here. Let's see. All right, we look pretty good on YouTube. I don't know if there's an issue on Facebook. Let me know in the comments below if you're still getting some double audio after killing it there and coming back in. Right now, it looks pretty good. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to check it all at the same time. All right, so I think we're okay. Apologies to everybody on that one. Where were we? Seattle. And is the National Hockey League going there? Let's get back to the article. Oh, yes, the Oakview Group. That's where we were. It's important to note here, I want to really, have full, I try and keep everybody as educated as possible. The Oakview Group, extraordinarily powerful in the world of pro sports. They are behind a lot of arenas and development projects. I would love it if we can pull up some more info on them. Hopefully they have a Wikipedia. You ever notice how you can't really go to Wikipedia anymore without getting hit up for $30 to donate? Since when did Wikipedia become PBS? I mean, seriously. These guys are driving me crazy. I love Wikipedia. I'll be the first one to complain when they go away. But for now, I can't be giving them money. Yeah, Tim Leiweke is a big part of the Oakview Group, and he was a big player in the Toronto Maple Leafs for a little while there. Irving Azoff and Tim Leiweke founded the Oakview Group. These are two super powerful dudes. As far as personal management goes in the music industry, it doesn't get any bigger than Irving Azoff. I mean, he's got everybody under his belt. Checking his Wikipedia quickly: Harry Styles, Christina Aguilera, Journey, the Eagles, Joe Walsh, 30 Seconds to Mars, Steely Dan, Bon Jovi, Fleetwood Mac, Gwen Stefani, Chelsea Handler. He's got everybody. He has got everybody. And Leiweke, came out of the sports world, big time in the Maple Leaf sports and entertainment, for a number of years. President of AEG for a little while. If you're not aware of AEG, run a lot of venues, a lot of big concerts, big concert promoter here in the States and throughout the world. And they've gotten together to put together this Oakview Group, which is a global advisory, development, and investment company for the sports and live entertainment industries. That means they get stuff done in sports. Who's behind the Islanders trying to get an arena in Brooklyn? The Oakview Group. I.e., if you want something done in the world of sports, you go with the Oakview Group. That's why Seattle's not messing with anybody else but the Oakview Group. That's how powerful they are. They are the right people to know. Put the money in the right people's hands. And they're behind the Seattle movement, which makes me really feel pretty strong about Seattle getting a hockey team. Now, they're not behind ownership. They're just behind the arena, making the arena happen. Anyway, the Oakview Group of Seattle is there to renovate the Key Arena, which has been open since 1962. The renovations are expected to be finished by 2020, which could be the prospective date for the arrival of an NHL team. By the way, I don't want to hurt feelings here. Ugly arena, man. Really, really super ugly arena. I just don't like. I don't like the. It's very odd looking. It looks like an old school World's Fair type of arena. I'd love to. Let me bring up some. Let me see if I can get some other photos for you here. Key Arena, Seattle. Let's take a look at this bad boy. The insides are just weird, and they got a lot of messing around to do to make this thing hockey worthy. Let's just take a look at Google Images here quickly. There's a shot of the inside. The inside looks okay. It's just the outside that's like a little bizarre. Obviously, they're going to try and get the Seattle Supersonics back. From what I understand, that's what hockey would look like. I think this is what the arena looks like right now. So I think, and I'm guessing here, what would be happening is they're I'm guessing they'd be kind of just, I'll bring that up for you so you guys can see, chopping off this sort of half of the arena and then pushing it back and expanding it a little bit. I kind of think that's what's happening, because as it sits right now, if you threw, there's the kind of the outline of the hockey rink. If you threw a hockey rink in there, it'd be a little funky. So I think they are going to alter the sort of grade of this seating. But look at the roof is very like, I mean, this is very, they got really good. Is the audio still messed up on Facebook? Sorry, I'm listening back to the. I mean, it looks like it's coming in okay on my device here. I don't know why. It could be just something on Facebook's end. I'm not sure. I'll tell you what, guys. Try going on over to YouTube. I'll try and put the link up. We're live on YouTube as well. I know that's a pain, but YouTube seems to be coming through loud and clear. So try head on over to the YouTube channel. Again, you can get the links at hockeytalkshow.com. That's hockeytalkshow.com. I apologize for any of the audio issues that are going on tonight. But I'm not seeing any complaints over on YouTube. Let me know, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, if the audio is cool. I checked it before, and it seemed cool on my end. So my apologies again for the technical difficulties. But I'm, as of right now, going to go ahead and have to blame this on Mark Zuckerberg. I believe he is at fault, not your old pal Ant. Anyway, we are we're into the Oakview group and their involvement in Seattle and the arena. Oh, okay, yeah, here we are. We are over here. We were looking at some of the shots of the arena as it stands right now. I would love to know what portion of the arena needs to be redone. It's just such a bizarre looking roof in there. Let's get another shot of it here. Look at that roof. It looks like it's going to fall down at any second. I wonder how the sight lines are in there. It definitely looks like one of those old... I tell you what, they got so good at building arenas. I know they're all cookie cutter and everybody complains about them, but they got so great at some of them. A little too steep on the upper bowls, I feel. But for the most part, they got really good at making them, feasible for today's game. I mean, it looks like a cool arena to be in, but it's such a square. Okay, here's a great little example. Like, look how square it is. It looks like a perfect square where most arenas are, oval shaped. I struggle to wonder how they're going to fit a whole entire rink in here, unless I'm really missing something. It just doesn't add up in my head. This arena, it just really doesn't. Just a quick audio check over on YouTube, guys. Let me know in the live chat if you're experiencing any issues over there as you're trying to stream the show tonight. I got a couple of complaints on Facebook, but I think YouTube is fairly okay. So let me know in the live chat how that's coming through for you here over there on the YouTube channel. That'd be great if you guys can just shout me out there and let me know. Or call into the listener line. You can do that too. 631-438-1768. 631-438 Yari Curry and Yaramir Yager. Just weird looking. That roof is so bizarre. I can't get past it. I mean, I like the I'm not like coming down on it. I like the uniqueness of it. I do. I like things that are different and unique. But it just looks a little weird to me. I don't know. And for $600 million, I almost feel like you could build a whole new building. Although it's crazy. These buildings are like $1 billion now at this point. Is this a rendering? Yeah, I mean, look how oval shaped, like, right? It doesn't add up here. Like, over here in this portion, like, it looks like this is where it would be coming down originally. I don't know if this is all underneath right now or if this is a rendering of the expansion. It doesn't really make sense. This is not it at all. I don't know. I have to look. Oh, here, let me see. Oh, we got something in here? the Seattle Center. Oh, this is a different venue altogether. Indoor concert venue. Oh, this is when they were thinking about splitting it up. Oh yeah, this was an old proposal. They were thinking about making an outdoor venue / indoor venue. That's dumb. Glad that they didn't go through with that. If you're just joining the program, we're taking a look at the Seattle Key Arena. All right, so we're good on YouTube. All right, everybody, to hell with Mark Zuckerberg. Go over to YouTube and watch the show tonight. Apologies for the audio issues over there, but things are good over on YouTube, not so much on Facebook. Back to our little article here. Oakview Group trying to make a move on this. 2020, they're thinking about having a team, which would be extraordinarily quick if they can make that happen. I mean, when you think about it, it's almost 2018, so it's a 2-year time frame. They can start, you know, selling tickets and, you know, doing that whole ticket drive that Vegas did. They could probably do that relatively soon. So we'll look at that and see what the deal is going to be with that. But I think the most attractive part about all of this, and I'll bring you back to the article photograph that we have there of Key Arena, which just looks, I mean, look at the window panes in here. Like, this has 60s written all over it. There are definitely some adjustments that can be made. The big thing with this is, and do you think this is actually going to happen? I mean, just because they get the renovation doesn't mean that they're going to get anything. Whether it's bringing the Supersonics back or the NBA expanding to accommodate the Supersonics again, or bringing in a Seattle NHL franchise. The thing that makes me feel good about it, though, is that $500 million bill that Bill Foley just paid for the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, money talks, you know, and BS walks, and that is a lot of money talking. When you think about the quickest ways to increase your profits as a league, expansion fees are the easiest because it costs you nothing. Think about it. You're not paying players. You're not sharing that money with players. Expansion fees, as far as I know, don't go into the player kick. You know, there's X amount of revenue that the players and the owners split up, or that's how they, you know, configure the salary cap. The expansion fees do not count. So if you want to get a little, you know, like, you know, you want to cheat Uncle Sam and pull in a little cash side job, you know, do work on some kitchens over the weekend, or, you know, pick up a little, fix a couple of cars over the weekend in your own personal life. If the NHL wants to do that, it's called expansion. That's the only way that happens with the National Hockey League. Pull in a little money on the side. To hell with you guys over there at the NHLPA. This is our kick. And that's what they're doing with this. Now, this article goes on to point out that, this is from Sportsnet up in Canada. It sounds like potential Seattle owner may need to pay an even larger expansion fee than Bill Foley. According to Sportsnet recently, that figure of $500 million could rise to $700 million. Oh, biscuits and gravy. $600 or $700 million for an expansion franchise in the National Hockey League. Now, a couple of things. The NHL loves this kind of rhetoric. This is marketing for them. There are only a few people in the world that can afford something like this. Your Bill Foley's, your Warren Buffett's, right? These guys. But the prospect, the NHL sees this in the papers. They love it. Because this is their marketing. Hey, they're floating the idea out there. Could be 600 mil. That's big. That's really big. And the press is doing their bidding on this one, you know. They're not the ones setting their terms. They're not the ones coming out and saying, well, we might expand. It could be 600 mil. They're not doing that. Might turn some people off. But if the hearsay, if the buzz around the league is it could be $700 million, that's a different story. That's a different story. The LA Clippers selling for $2 billion really set the sports world on kilter. I mean, it really messed everything up. Because ever since that moment, I've never been able to necessarily track this down, nor do I think that we'll ever have a concrete answer. But supposedly, when Charles Wang was selling the Islanders, that was in the midst of the LA Clipper deal that they went for $2 billion. That negotiation started. he heard what the Clippers were being valued at, and he immediately wanted to renegotiate. And I hear, this is all hearsay, this is all speculation and rumor, that the price went up 50 to 75 or $100 million in difference. That Charles Wong said, hold on a second. We have to reevaluate things. This changes the landscape of the league. And I know you're thinking, what do the LA Clippers and the NBA and Los Angeles have to do with the Islanders in the NHL in New York? It matters. Sports properties are sports properties. They're all related. It all matters. That's why you have situations like you do in Detroit with Mike Illick. You know, he owned the Tigers. He owned the Pistons. He owned the Red Wings. You know, these guys, it makes a difference. This is the big boy billion-dollar leagues. You know, it makes a difference. If one goes up in one sport, it naturally brings up the progression in all the others. TV deals, the same thing. The mega TV deal started. The next thing you know, the NBA had a mega TV deal. You know, NHL in Canada, NBA, NHL in the States. It all drives each other. It all moves each other. It's all related. So yeah, the Clippers being sold for that much money definitely impacts other teams. Other cities, including Quebec City and Houston, have been vying to get an NHL team. The owner of the NBA's Rockets, Tillman Fertitta, still can't get that guy's name right, recently met with the league officials. We talked about that on the Hockey Talk show prior to this, that the difference here with Houston is arena's ready, owner's ready, and they're ready. In Seattle, you had to get all this stuff approved. Now they've moved steps closer, so they're more of a contender. You had a arena in Quebec City. They built Videotron Center in 2012. In a poll, players said earlier this year that they preferred Quebec City to Seattle for a new team. Not that that makes a difference or has any bearing on anything other than to upset some people in Seattle. But the National Hockey League players have spoken through this poll, and they have said that they'd rather play in Quebec City than Seattle. I find that to be pretty interesting because I don't know what difference it makes really to National Hockey League players other than Canadians who would want to play in their home province or hometown city or home country. Outside of that, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you've noticed this trend that's been happening in the National Hockey League lately, especially around free agency, nobody really seems to care anymore where they play. Have you noticed that? I've definitely noticed this over the last bunch of years. The areas where these teams compete in for free agents has vastly changed, where for the most part, they can care less where they play because they're essentially getting the same thing in every single city. They're getting an arena, which, let's be honest, with all the cookie cutter arenas for the most part are kind of the same. They're getting first-class treatment everywhere. It's not like the NHL in, 20 years ago where some flew private and some flew commercial. Yeah, that's right. Some flew commercial. It's not like that anymore. The salary cap has evened up a lot of things, and the behind the scenes of the NHL, the player treatment, is all the same. It's not like there's not great neighborhoods in every NHL city. I mean, there's bad neighborhoods everywhere, but the NHL players are living in good neighborhoods. So you're getting a good neighborhood no matter where you are. You're in an arena that's pretty much the same as every other arena. Every one of the teams has amazing practice facilities at this point. Like, it kind of doesn't really make a difference anymore. Now, you're going to see your different flavors. Playing for the Rangers is going to be different than playing for the Nashville Predators, which is going to be different than playing for the Anaheim Ducks. Weather, culture, there are all these intangibles. But when you're a National Hockey League player and you have from 18 essentially to 35 to make a living for the rest of your life, money tends to matter a whole hell of a lot more than any of the other things. Like back in the day, you may have wanted to play in New York because, you got a limo to and from the game and you got on private jets and you got this perk and that perk. Those things don't really exist anymore because they are all flying private. They're all staying in 4-star hotels on the road. You know what I mean? So the difference between each team in each city is almost minimal, because a nice neighborhood's a nice neighborhood and a great training facility is a great training facility. It's almost insignificant. So I have noticed that difference between players. So when they talk about players sitting there going, well, we took a poll, and I don't really see what difference it makes. Because you look at every NHL free agency move in the last 10 years, and they're all saying the same thing. Money in term was right. So here I am. Very, very, very few times do you see anybody taking a big hometown discount. Now, I'm not talking about, oh, I decided not to take $11.5 million and, you know, messed my team up in the cap, and I took 10.5 or I took 10. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your $2 to $3, $4 million players, $5 million players, where that stuff really makes a difference. To them, it's no difference where they play. They're going for the best dollars and the best term. So I'm not really buying this. We prefer to play in Quebec City. I don't really think so. Shat Deuces is the last player that I really have found that took significantly less money to go play where they wanted to, which was their home. You know, you don't really see that. You do see players saying, well, I was drafted here and I've signed a bunch of contracts here and I will take a smidge less to stay here. You do see that. And I expect that. People get comfortable. They're creatures of habits. But as far as players going, I'm leaving here to go there because that's my home and I'm going to take less to go there, you don't really see that all that often. So I'm not exactly buying that whole mix of, yeah, I'd rather go play in Quebec City than Houston. But again, the question of the show today, let me know in the comments below, what city do you think is best for the National Hockey League? Or what city do you think the NHL is going to go to first? Because there's a difference. Because Quebec City may be, from a hockey culture standpoint, the best city to go to. But what city do you actually think they're going to go to first? So you can have two different answers on this if you want. You could be like, and I think the best city is Quebec, but I think they're going to go to Houston first. As far as Houston and Seattle goes, I don't know who is in a better position. Again, Houston's ready to go at the drop of a hat. Seems like he's got the money. He's a big time owner with the Houston Rockets. He's got the arena. It's one of the bigger markets in the city, in the country, I should say, in the States. Not a traditional hockey market, but as we've seen with Nashville, it doesn't matter. You know, with Vegas, it doesn't matter. If you go in and you build it right and you make it work, in 15 years, you can have a legacy of being a really good hockey town, which is what Nashville is today. Nashville is lauded as a great hockey town. It took them 20 years to get there. It took them 20 years to get to a Stanley Cup final. But they turned that city into a hockey town. The folks in Nashville love hockey, love it. You could also make the argument of, look at the Carolina Hurricanes. They're having some issues. And tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk about some of their ticket issues because we have an in-depth article on that as well. So that'll be cool to get into. There certainly is that side of the argument. But I think it's, you know, it's easier to look at Columbus. It's easier to look at Nashville. It's easier to look at the cities that have operated and done things right as an example, rather than those who necessarily haven't. Your Arizonas, you know, your Florida Panthers, for instance. We've seen what those teams can do when they're successful. They're phenomenal. It's the point of they got to string together a bunch of years of success to achieve that sort of prosperity, which Nashville has done. So I definitely think you can build Houston into a market as quick or as quicker than Seattle. I'm not really sure. I think you do have a fair amount of hockey fans in Seattle that love the Vancouver Canucks. I do love the natural rivalry that'll develop between the Canucks and the Seattle team. But, you know, the same argument can be made for Houston with the Dallas Stars. You can have just as much of a natural rivalry there. As far as, you know, the league's divisions lining up, I think it makes the most sense to put a team in Seattle. But again, we've heard the National Hockey League comment on that stuff before and saying that, hey, we've never made a decision on expansion because of a limit, which they haven't, nor will they ever. So something to consider with Key Arena today. Again, if you're just joining the program, $600 million renovation for Key Arena approved by the city council. It's not done just yet. The mayor still has to give his okay, and then it has to go through a bunch more process after that. But it looks really good right now. And again, going by what The Athletic is writing and the Seattle Times are writing, you could have an NHL team in Seattle by 2020 if you so choose. In the comments section, let me know what's the best city the NHL should expand to in a hockey sense, or what city do you think they'll go to first? Houston, Quebec City, Seattle, Kansas City. They have an arena there. Still a possibility. Remember, they tried to lure the Islanders all those years ago. Again, if the audio kind of is terrible on Facebook, we're having some issues there on Facebook tonight. Apologies. It's not really on our end. Head on over to the YouTube channel. You can access that through hockeytalkshow.com and watch the show on any of your devices via YouTube. My thoughts on this are this, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but a lot of what I say is, and it may take a little while to come to fruition, but it usually does. Well, 9 times out of 10. And by 9 times out of 10, I mean 6 times out of 10. I think that the National Hockey League will be in 3 out of those 4 cities that we just talked about in the next 10 years. That is my honest opinion about it. You just flat out can't ignore the fact that the expansion fee went from nothing to $500 million, and Bill Foley gladly forked it over. And you know what? The expansion experiment, say that 10 times fast, worked, because Vegas is good and they're in first place. Are they in first place? They're close to it. Doesn't matter. They're competitive. They're a great franchise. And if George McPhee runs that team good now, the way he did to, draft the team, they're going to be great for years. And it's going to really help the National Hockey League. By the way, I think it's going to help the Arizona Coyotes. Desert rivalry. They're close to get to. It's nothing to hop on a Southwest flight, probably for like $75, and get from one to the other. So I think you're going to see more Vegas fans popping up in Arizona, and Arizona fans getting excited when Vegas comes to town, vice versa. Liz, what up, kid? Quebec City would probably be the best hockey city, but I'm pretty sure that Seattle will be the place. There's certainly been a lot of momentum behind Seattle. Even when we had the dust up of Houston a couple of weeks ago, and everybody talking about the Calgary Flames going down and being the Houston Flames down there in Texas. There certainly seems to be a lot more potential with Seattle. And here's why. You do have a nice arena and owner and everything else ready to go down there in Houston. But like I said, Vancouver and its proximity and the National Hockey League fans that are already there is interesting. But also, when a city forks over $600 million to renovate their hometown arena, you've got to show cause for that. You've got to continue to put the money in to do whatever you can to make sure that money comes back to your city. That money does not come back to your city unless your arena is filled. I'll tell you what fills up 41 nights on 365 days in a year. Actually, more than that, because you really fit 2 seasons into a year. But regardless, a National Hockey League team. You get an NHL team and an NBA team in an arena. Guess what? That's 82 days at minimum filled to the brim, not counting preseason or playoffs. Done. Over. Now you can fill in your Lady Gagas and Barbra Streisands on the way, and you've got a nice little income stream coming in for your city. That's how it works. So I think that Seattle will definitely be far more aggressive to try and make a team work. Again, like I said, they have the Oakview group behind them, which is very significant. Irving Azoff, Tim Lewicki, Rangers fans, your guy, Jimmy Dolan, they're all investors in this. Mets fans, Mets are investors in the Oakview group as well. They all have money in that. They're a phenomenal company with a lot of influence. You have Irving Azoff in there sitting there going like this. Oh, you want to build an arena? Yeah, you know what? You should do that because I can get Christina Aguilera to come play 2 nights a year for the next 5 years. That's how the industry works. It's not just about hockey or basketball. It's about entertainment income tax, revenue stream, and everything else for the city. But back to my insane thought here as we talk about the renovation of Key Arena, which was just approved by the city council tonight. $600 million renovation. Sportsnet reporting that expansion fees can be anywhere from $600 to $700 million, depending. That is why I think that the National Hockey League will expand far past Key Arena in Seattle and into Quebec and so on and so forth. You cannot pass up $1.5 billion to your owners over the next 10 years. Can't be done. There is not an owner in the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, NFL, or anything else that's going to pass up on expansion. Again, you don't share expansion fees with players. That is for ownership only. It does not go into the kick that decides what the salary cap will be. It does not go into the revenue sharing. Owners take that, thank you very much, and stick it in their pockets. You can't ignore the fact that you can get away scot-free doing absolutely nothing and make $1.5 billion. Who on planet Earth is going to ignore that? Nobody. That's why I strongly believe Seattle, Houston, and Quebec City will have NHL franchises in the future. Now, the obstacle to overcome is, what do you do with the unhealthy franchises now? Carolina, Calgary struggling with an arena, Arizona. You do what Gary Bettman has been doing. Stick a Band-Aid on it, put your head down, and keep moving forward. Figure out the best way you possibly can. On a worst case scenario, with all the franchises we talked about, you're talking about finding 6 owners. Because the National Hockey League doesn't think, well, we're going to lose Calgary to Houston. The National Hockey League thinks, well, we might lose Calgary. Let's find a new owner. That's what they're thinking. Oh, are the Carolina Hurricanes not happy with attendance and anything else? They're not thinking, well, let's move them over to so-and-so. They're thinking, well, let's find a new owner. That's what the NHL is thinking. So even in the worst case scenario, they have to find 6 billionaires. 6. That's it. 6 billionaires. You want to find 6? I'll find you 6 billionaires. I'll find you 6 billionaires by 2 o'clock with the nail polish. Sorry. Big Lebowski fans, you'll get that one. So I think that they'll be able to find that. And I think that they will expand. And let's be honest, it hasn't hurt the on-ice product whatsoever. You know, when Columbus, Atlanta, and Nashville came in, you had a lot of guys playing in the National Hockey League that maybe didn't deserve to be there. You had a lot more enforcers in the game playing bigger minutes that maybe didn't deserve to be there. At this point, where the National Hockey League is and the National Hockey League players are, there are far too many great athletes for the amount of spots that they have. Far too many. And the players are all getting better. And by the way, Jerome McGinley, Jaromir Jagr, Shane Doan, they're all playing for much longer time. You think that, you know, if he stays healthy, that Connor McDavid's not going to play until he's 39, 40? I mean, look at what some of the 39, 40, and 41-year-olds were able to do now. Look at Jagr. Look at what these guys were able to do, and look at what you know, fitness was when they started. It was non-existent. Now these guys that are coming into the league have not only been the healthiest they've possibly been, but they've been that way since they're 14. Longevity is part of this now. So you'll have great players playing longer. I'm not worried about watering down the game whatsoever. And you know what? When you're about to make $1.5 billion, you're not going to be all that worried about it either. You're just not. So Gary Bettman, the owners, Bill Daly, they can say whatever they want. In the back of their minds, they're thinking, yeah, Seattle sounds good. Sure, Houston sounds fine. Quebec City, why not? If somebody up there is willing to pony up $700 million, guess what? They'll slap that little NHL on their sweaters, send you on your way. Go ahead. Make it happen, Captain. That's my honest thought about it. I think that even if it's not the best for the game, even if it's not the best economically, the league will try and expand as much as possible. And by the way, 34 teams, that's not crazy. That's really not crazy. You see where you're at from there. When you think about it, Calgary is not really all that much in financial trouble. I mean, they are a little bit, but they get a decent arena or a little help there from the city council. That's all they're doing is they're trying to get their help. They'll be fine. They were fine 5 years ago. They've just been in decline. Nobody likes an old arena. Carolina has got things going in the right direction, I believe. And by the way, they make 2 playoff runs in 2 years, and they're going to be back to packing that house out. So are the Florida Panthers. There's plenty of hockey fans to go around. And like I said, it's all about TV revenue. That's the big bill payer now in the National Hockey League. That affects the salary cap. Not if Timmy and Sarah show up on a Thursday night in Florida. It's a big story, but not really all that a significant one. You can get by with lack of attendance. By the way, we're going to talk attendance most likely on tomorrow's show, barring a major trade or something like that. We're going to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes and attendance. Because I feel like, yeah, is attendance down in Carolina, Ottawa, Detroit? It is. But have you watched football lately? Have you seen the 49ers attendance records? They're pitiful. I think that attendance is down in a lot of the leagues. And we're going to talk about that. What's going on? Tans thinking Houston and Seattle for teams. Yeah, I think the only question is who gets it first, Houston or Seattle. But I think those two are the front runners. I don't think that there's huge interest in Kansas City, which is a shame because they do have a really nice new building down there. I just don't know if there's ownership who wants to bring a team there all that bad, or if it's as dire as Houston or Seattle does. And I also don't know about their corporate environment because, you know, they're able to maintain an NFL team and they're able to maintain a baseball team that's been there forever. But an NBA franchise and an NHL franchise, they haven't been able to capitalize on just yet. So, and I'm not sure what their minor league situation is, but I don't really recall any franchises there in a minor league sense. Also, the Kansas City Chiefs left at one point. Not the Chiefs. Scouts, the Kansas City Scouts. There was an NHL team there at one point and they left. So that is another telling moment for the city of Kansas. Do you say the city of Kansas or the city of Kansas City? How does that work? Seems like a waste of time to say city twice. Finally, before we go, let's talk about Doug Armstrong. A little while ago, I told you that Lou Lamoriello up there in Maple Leaf Country does not have a contract. And I said this is heartbreaking because Lou Lamoriello deserves 4 contracts. For what he's been able to do in Toronto, he's been able to do some pretty nice moves. Now, he hasn't built a team from nothing. He hasn't come in and made 47 amazing trades. He hasn't. But like a damn good chef, he's put the salt where the salt needs to be. He's kept it on top of the stove for as long as it needs. Like, he's done all the right things to make a delicious meal. A delicious meal would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he doesn't have a contract. And when pressed about it, the Toronto Maple Leafs said, well, we want to get through this season first. Want to get through the season first. By the way, what up, Eddie V? I like this one. What would you name? Or he didn't. He just said about Seattle. What would you name a team from Seattle? The Grungers, the Grunge Rockers, the Grunge Checkers, the Seattle Cobainers, the Jimi Hendrix, the Seattle Purple Haze would be the best thing ever. If they named the team after Jimmy, oh my God, I would be so excited. Seattle Purple Haze. Although too much of a, weed thing on that one. Too much weed overtones. Not good for the National Hockey League. Who's the minor league team that's in? Are the Thunderbirds the minor team? I think it's the Thunderbirds. The Seattle unskilled laborers. The Seattle Starbuckses. Starbucks. I'm pretty sure it's Starbucks. That would be amazing. I think it's the Seattle Thunderbirds that are the minor league franchise over there in Seattle. The junior team, right? Yeah. By the way, beautiful logo too. And here's the issue. I'm sorry, we'll get back to Doug Armstrong in a second. But here's the issue with Seattle. They're Vancouver colors. It's the Pacific Northwest color. You know, I mean, I know that they got a thing going on there, but they wouldn't be able to go into the league with those colors. And I hate to say this, Vancouver, but I feel like those colors are more justified to Seattle than Vancouver. I don't know. What do you think? And that style is so beautiful too. The Canucks have had that for quite some time. That sort of Pacific Northwest. You know, the people that are just native to that area kind of always had that sort of look to it, which is really, really nice. Seattle, Vancouver. Seattle Thunderbirds looking pretty good. I wonder if you just come in as a Seattle Thunderbirds and be able to make that happen. I don't know. Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Mariners. They got great names in Seattle. Seattle Flying Salmon. There you go. There you go. I'll tell you what I love about the Seattle Flying Salmon. It ties into what they do over there at that fish market. And also, much like in Detroit, we got something to throw it out to the ice before the game starts. I love it. I love it. That would be amazing. Coming up with a name would be the hardest. Same for a team in Houston, though people want the Arrows name. Yeah, the Houston Arrows are a great name. The Houston Arrows are a really great name. I apologize for the audio issues. I don't know why we're having these all around now. It's definitely might be something. All our numbers look great. Everything looks like it's coming through okay. So I don't know why we're having some audio issues. I apologize for that. Houston, yeah, I mean, that's funny too. Seattle and Houston, here's two cases where you have really good minor league or junior teams in the area already with great names, you know. And by the way, the Vegas Golden Knights wanted to just be the Knights, but they couldn't do it because the London Knights in Ontario, the junior team there, has a copyright on the name in Canada. So even though the name would have flown down here in the States, I believe they wouldn't have been able to use the name in Canada, which is a problem for the National Hockey League. So they went with Golden Knights. That's why they're the Golden Knights. But Bill Foley wanted to just flat out name them the Knights. That was his original idea. What would you name his Seattle team? The Umbrellas, since they need them all the time? I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing here. I don't know. You can go a lot of different ways with this. Look at Doug Armstrong's face. That's the face of a man who has built a perennial contender and still can't get a damn contract. What the hell? Give this man a contract. This coming from NBC Sports and also The Athletic. Why is GM, St. Louis Blues GM Doug Armstrong waiting on a contract extension? Why is a good question. Let me see here. The Athletic's Jeremy Rutherford goes in depth on Armstrong's lack of a deal. Armstrong's put together a remarkably clean, competitive roster. One of Rutherford's most salient points is that while other teams have used buyouts to clean up mistakes, Armstrong's avoided to do so, thus saving the Blues both face and money. Rutherford's article, which, by the way, in The Athletic requires a subscription, notes that the Blues wouldn't just risk losing Armstrong, they'd also possibly lose worthwhile management members who would follow him out the door if another team were to come calling. And why would another team? Rutherford points out, quote, and if the person who has signed the Blues contracts for the past 8 years comes close enough to free agency himself, the Blues may also risk losing not only him, but his army as well. Assistant GM Marty Brodeur, Vice President of Hockey Operations Dave Taylor, Senior Consultant Larry Robinson, Director of Player Development Tim Taylor, Director of Hockey Analytics Thomas Kaysen, and of course, in addition, Bill Armstrong and Rob DeMeo, Director of Player Personnel under Doug Armstrong. So there's a lot to digest with that. I'm not exactly sure why these franchises have chosen to be lax with their general managers, especially those who are successful. This just goes to show you that sometimes the world doesn't make sense, because apparently we've never been able to confirm this, but Garth Snow has like a 10-year contract, and Lou Lamoriello and Doug Armstrong are on expiring contracts. I mean, the world just doesn't make sense. The world just does not make any sense from that standpoint. I don't get it. Gonna cut it short there. 7:30, nice hour show tonight. Apologize for any of the audio issues. This will be up in podcast form by tonight. You can, of course, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or Podbean if you would like, and you can listen to a nice clean version of it there. I promise you the audio will be good there. Actually, that's a lie. I'm just guessing. I don't know why there's issues. There could be a problem there as well, but it's worth a shot checking out. HockeyTalkShow.com. Remember to subscribe on Facebook and YouTube. Click the bell and the follow button so you get the notifications right away. I'm starting to fall in love with, but don't want to get too premature on the 6 o'clock hour. I like the just before the games that night time slot. I think the response has been the best. We did an 8 o'clock show. We did a 7 o'clock show. We did a 3 o'clock show. The 3 o'clock show was pretty good, actually. Seems like 6 o'clock is the best time for all you guys. We've had the best numbers there. So I think we're going to settle into this for a little while and see what happens. But, of course, that could change on a daily basis. But we're growing this Hockey Talk show. The response has been great. We're nearing some big numbers on YouTube that I'll fill you in on in just a little bit. But again, the growth on Facebook has been tremendous. So share this around if you know you have a hockey fan in your life, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, cousin in Albuquerque, especially in Albuquerque. Oh, we got to help the fans in Albuquerque. I mean, they're never going to get a team. They're also in Albuquerque, which is an issue. So make sure they're finding out about some good old hockey talk right here on the Hockey Talk Show. Pleasure chatting with you guys tonight. We got a bunch of great games on the schedule. I haven't talked a lot about the Islanders. I've been holding off, but we do got to kind of press it home because they are doing phenomenal. Matthew Barzal has been extraordinary. His game against the Panthers last night was unbelievable. Guys should have scored 4 goals. He wound up only getting 1 in the shootout, which doesn't count towards his totals, which stinks. But he had a hell of a game, and he's been super impressive so far. And the Islanders have been on a roll. They beat the Panthers last night. They're in Tampa tonight. Let's see how they react to the back-to-back. We've got actually, this is another thing I want to get into. You guys can think about this as we go here. But the Metro Division might be the best division in hockey. And I say that with a little bit of prejudice, and I don't like saying it because it's the one I watch the most. If I'm not watching the Isles, I'm watching the Rangers. If I'm not watching the Rangers, I'm watching the Devils. If it's none of the local teams, odds are Pittsburgh is on a national game. You know what I mean? Or Washington. So I tend to watch this division more than any other, but it feels to me like they are the best division in hockey. We got some good matchups tonight. Islands are playing in Tampa, out of division, but still. Columbus and the Devils. This is going to be a damn good game tonight. Columbus and the Devils. I'm excited about it. Already started a half hour ago. And Rangers and Pittsburgh this evening. I'm super excited about the Rangers in Pittsburgh at 7:30. St. Louis and Montreal. I think St. Louis is a club of Montreal. The Montreal's been great lately. Winnipeg and Detroit. Give that one to the Winnipeg Jets for me. And we'll see how we did tomorrow on the show. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the subscriptions. Make sure to spread the word, and I will see you